So we understood different text chunking methods that we use when building RAG systems, right? So we have character based chunking, word based chunking, sentence based chunking, paragraph based chunking, overlapping chunking, and semantic chunking, right? And like I said before, text chunking is an important pre-processing step when building any RAG system, right? That is retrieval augmented generation systems, right? And always remember that the best chunking method often depends on your specific use case, content type, and the requirements of your RAG system, right? And sometimes you might even need to combine multiple chunking methods, or you may want to create your own custom chunking method approach for optimal results, right? Now let's see the demo. Let me go to our code editor, VS Code. So I think I didn't show you how to create a workspace before when we are building RAG application, right? But you can click on save workspace as, and you can name anything. Here I named build generative AI applications, right? So everything will be in one place, right? And then you can create separate folders here. Once you create the workspace, here I opened RAG demo and I saved it here, right? So this is how we created our question answer RAG application, right? So now let's see different chunking methods. So if you see here, I created an empty folder, chunking methods demo. Now let's try to add the empty folder that we created to the build generative AI applications workspace. Come here to the Explorer and right click and add folder to workspace and select this folder and add, right? So now we are inside chunking methods demo, and here try to create a new file, and it is Python file, right? And let's save it as character text splitter demo and save it, right? So inside RAG demo folder, we built the RAG application before, right? So let's close this, and then inside chunking methods demo, I created a new Python file and I named it character text splitter demo, right? Now let's see how we can use character text splitter, right? So before we do anything, first we have to install all the required packages. So here, like I said, we are using LangChain packages. So make sure you install LangChain, right? You have to go to the terminal, click on view and terminal, right? So here you can enter pip install LangChain and hit enter. And then the next one is pip install LangChain text splitter, right? And then hit enter. And then pip install tick token, hit enter. Either you can give this way or you can give all in one line also. Just give spaces, space, LangChain, text splitter, and all the three packages in one line, right? So this is how you will install all the required packages, right? So once you install all these required packages, now let's try to import the required packages. Since we are trying to use character text splitter, I imported character text splitter from LangChain text splitters, right? So once you import that, the first thing is we have to prepare our input document, right? So I'm taking this sample text as our input document, right? So this is our input document text, right? So this is our sample text. Here you can replace with any text you want. This is your domain specific data, right? So let me save this. And once we have the input text ready, then let's see how to implement character text splitting, right? So let me just add a print statement, character text splitter example, and we know character text splitting is best used for simple text splitting, right? Now we have to make use of this character text splitter which is inside LangChain text splitters, right? So let's use that. So inside character text splitter, we have these three parameters: separator, chunk size, chunk overlap, right? And we are trying to separate by two new lines. So wherever we have two new lines inside our input document, then chunk there, and the chunk size should be 200 and chunk overlap is 50, right? We already know these two parameters, right? It will try to divide by 200 characters with an overlap of 50, or within 200 characters. In case if there is this pattern, two new lines, then it will chunk there, right? Now inside this splitter, we know we have split underscore text method, right? So let's use, inside the splitter we have split underscore text and pass our sample text, that is our input document, right? Once we pass it, then we will get the chunks. Now let's try to print the chunks that we have inside the chunks, right? So let me save it and click on run. So now you can see we have our chunks. Let me go to our input text, and if you see, this is our first chunk, right? Because we see two new lines here. This is our first chunk, and from here till here, right? This is our second chunk, and from here this is the third chunk, right? And so on, right? So now we got the chunks. Now if you want to see the data type of these chunks, you can use type method, and let's run it. So now you can see this chunks is of type list, right? So inside the list we have all the chunks available. Now let's try to loop in so we can read the individual chunks, right? So what we are using, for loop, for each chunk inside this chunks list, I'm trying to loop in and then get each chunk, right? So now let me rerun the code. So now you can see we have a total of 6 chunks, right? So the first chunk is introduction to machine learning. So if you see here, we have new lines, right? So that is why it chunked there. And then the next chunk is still here, because after this we have a new line. And then the next chunk is till here. And then the fourth chunk is till here. And then the fifth chunk is this. And then the last chunk is still here, right? So that is how we can implement character text splitter and divide our input document by number of characters, right? So let me quickly explain what we did here. First thing is we installed all the required packages here. In fact, you actually don't need this tick token now. That is used in another chunking method. I will explain later. So make sure you install these two required packages and then try to import character text splitter, because that is what we are using to split our input document by character chunks, right? And then we prepared our input document here. So this is our input document. Here you can replace with any content you want. This is specific to your domain, right? And then here I'm just trying to print, and then we are using character text splitter, and the separator is 2 new lines, right? So whenever there are 2 new lines, it will try to chunk there, and the chunk size is 200 and chunk overlap is 50. We are trying to overlap 50 characters from previous chunk, right? So that is what this chunk overlap is. And inside the splitter we have split underscore text. We have to pass our input text here, so we will get the chunks, and this chunks is of type list, right? Now we are trying to loop in each chunk inside this list and trying to print it here. And this is how it divided the whole input document into 6 chunks, right? So I hope you understood this character text splitting, right? And this character text splitter is best used for simple text splitting, right? Thank you.